of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and the President's Chief Medical Advisor. So, Dr. Fauci, the CDC announced that the Delta variant makes up more than half the coronavirus cases in the U.S. New infections are up in 10 states. Can you just put this in perspective? I mean, amid the dire warnings that the Delta variant is doubling about every 2 weeks, what concerns you the most?
Well, what concerns me, Anderson, are the people who are not vaccinated. Clearly, the vaccines that we use in this country do quite well against the Delta variant, particularly with regard to protecting against serious advanced disease requiring hospitalization. There have been a number of studies that show, variable degrees of protection against initial infection, but when it comes to serious consequences, the vaccines that we use are really quite effective in preventing advancement to severe disease. For that reason alone, as the president had alluded to just a moment ago in the clip that you played, people really need to reconsider those who don't want to get vaccinated. We have a situation in the United States, Anderson, where we have more vaccine than we need. I mean, we have vaccines for everyone and anyone who needs it, and there are places in the world where people would do anything to get vaccine, and yet we have a substantial proportion of people in very specific regions of the country who just do not want to get vaccinated, despite the fact that we have a significant threat, as you mentioned in the piece, from a virus that has a greater degree of capability of spreading from person to person. No doubt about that. We've seen that in multiple countries, and actually can cause more severe disease. So if ever there was a reason to get vaccinated, this is it.
The Israeli government released a statement yesterday saying that it found a drop in protection from the Pfizer vaccine and linked the drop to the spread of the Delta variant of the virus. Now, according to the statement, the Pfizer vaccine provided 64% protection against all infections, including asymptomatic infection and mild disease, 93% efficacy in preventing severe disease and hospitalizations, as you indicated earlier. Obviously, 93 is still a high number, but I mean, when I saw this headline, I got very concerned. Then once you read it more, it's basically saying there's not people being hospitalized and dying from the Delta variant who have been vaccinated in Israel, but some are still, but the efficacy drops. You're more likely to get infected with the Delta variant, even if you've been vaccinated. It'll just be mild. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. Well, according to the announcement from the Israelis, what you said, Anderson, is correct. The data is sparse. We are all trying very hard to get more specific, granular data about that. The Israelis know what they're doing. We're not doubting them, but we want to make sure exactly what the circumstances were of that drop from 94% protection against asymptomatic infection down to 64. Is that a reflection that they're more aggressively testing everybody and anybody who's come into contact with a person who has an asymptomatic infection? I don't know. We need to know that right now. We need to watch it very carefully, but we need to get more granular and specific data from the Israelis.
Last year, every time that there was a holiday or a long weekend, the number of new infections went up. I know the TSA is reporting more than 10 million people passed through airports this past weekend. Do you have a sense yet of what the case numbers may look like?
No, not yet, Anderson. That's going to probably take a couple of weeks at least before we find that out. I mean, very clearly, as I've said before, the risk is significant if you are not vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, you dramatically diminish your risk of getting infected in the first place, and extraordinarily dramatically diminish the risk of you getting severe disease. So again, I don't want to seem like a broken record, Anderson, but it is what it is, and that's what's happening, that if we do get surges, they're going to be regional among those areas of the country where the level of vaccination is low. We still have some areas of the country where the percent of vaccinated people is like 30%, which is very, very low. We've got to get it up above that. Otherwise, people in those particular locations are going to wind up having a higher degree of risk of infection, and you're going to see more infections and more hospitalizations, and unfortunately, in some cases, maybe even increase in deaths.
And even people who are currently getting infected, who haven't been vaccinated, they're, even if they have mild cases, they are still at risk for whether you call them long haul symptoms or long-term COVID symptoms.
Long COVID. Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, Anderson, because that's one of the things that people really don't have a good appreciation of. If you get infected, and a lot of young people, understandably but unfortunately, feel that way. They say, well, I don't want to get vaccinated. If I get infected, the chances are that I'll have only mild or no symptoms at all. They're correct. Statistically, the likelihood of their getting severe disease is much less than in an elderly person or a person who has an underlying condition. But what we are starting to see now more of are people who get very mild infection who have this long COVID, which is a persistence of symptoms, sometimes debilitating, that can go on for many, many weeks. So even though you clear the acute infection, you have things like profound fatigue, muscle aches, temperature dysregulation, lack of ability to concentrate. It's something that needs to be taken seriously. And that's the reason why we alert young people, don't think you're exempt from serious issues, including something that you may not have even thought of, namely long COVID after you clear the infection.
No. Again, the key, getting vaccinated. Dr. Anthony Fauci, appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to be with you, Anderson.
Coming up next, we're going to go live to Florida for more of our breaking news there. Elsa, now a Category 1 hurricane, how residents are preparing and how Elsa may affect the search for victims in